A Cape lawmaker will be making a run for governor. Finance Director Mark Milne has an update on the finalized FY14 budget, and DPW Director Dan Santos tells us about the completed Hyannis Harbor dredging project. All this and more coming up on Barnstable Today. I'm Sarah Mannel. Cape and Islands State Senator Dan Wolf announced this morning that he will make a run for governor. Wolf made the announcement in a video that was released this morning. Wolf is the founder of Cape Air and is serving a second term as state senator. In his announcement, Wolf said his focus as governor would be providing good, accessible public education and on job growth. The Town Council recently approved the FY14 budget. One budget priority this year is public safety, including some additional funds that will be dedicated to the Barnstable Police Department.
In particular, we're looking at opening up a new substation in the western side of town towards the last quarter of next fiscal year, once the police sworn officer staff is up to full level of staffing. And we also provided some additional funding for training in the police department, as we feel it's important to keep the staff there up to date and has the most relevant training available. We've also invested quite a bit of money in vehicle replacement program for the police department next year as well.
Milne said department and town officials hope to locate the new substation on the west side of Hyannis near Route 28. The Army Corps of Engineers recently completed the Hyannis Dredging project in Hyannis Harbor. DPW Director Dan Santos described the process.
There are a number of ways to do dredging, and in this case, what was done was a vessel that the Army Corps of Engineers has had built for them, and which operates up and down the East Coast 363 days a year. It's constantly working in harbors because they all have this phenomenon where the sand builds up as a result of storms and it goes into the low points, and so you have to occasionally clear that out. In fact, the last time it was done in Hyannis Harbor was in 1998, 1999, so it's been 14 years since it was done last. So sometimes you can go a long time and other times it builds up quickly, but in this case this vessel or dredge is a large, basically it's a dump truck on the water. So there's a large open portion of the vessel where sand and water is pumped from the bottom through large hoses and pumps up into the hopper, is what it's called, or the area where the sand and water flow and they build up. And as the sand gets to a certain point, they then take it out to a location that they're going to place the material, and they open up the bottom of the vessel, and it has a hinge, and the sand just flows out into this area that they've dedicated for disposing of this material. And what it becomes is material that can replenish the system.
Santos said the last time the harbor was dredged was more than a decade ago in 1998. The Conservation Commission got an update from Three Bays Preservation and the Mass Audubon Society this week about plans to stem coastal erosion in Cotuit. John Ramsey, a consultant for Three Bays Preservation, said the project is necessary to preserve the shoreline near Dead Neck Beach.
We had also done some shoreline change analysis. We were actually wanted to look at the near-term processes. We focused on the 2001 to 2011 time period when basically that time period when structures like the Leventhal groin had collapsed into the inlet. And so obviously one of the things we see, those dark red bars right across from the Sampson's Island spit are where we're seeing the most erosion. Not a big surprise, but we are seeing erosion along that entire shoreline all the way out through the length of Bluff Point. And obviously you guys have permitted some action all the way out there on the Egan property with some dune restoration because of that erosion.
Engineer John O'Day outlined the 5-phase plan in detail for the commission.
Why I'm really here is for the phasing plan. We had for the last hearing, submitted a 4-year phasing plan, and there was some concerns about only having, the one season in between phase 1 and phase 2 to monitor what had been going on. And we did, in addition to the phasing, we had a pretty extensive monitoring plan of all the things that would be monitoring, before, during, after dredging. So what we have proposed is to have during year 2 no dredging. And what that would really mean was that between a December, January dredging of year 1 and December, January dredging year 3, would have almost 2 years of data that we could be reporting back to the commission at a November hearing to be able to evaluate what impacts there have been. So we've extended we're still working in 4 years, but we've proposed to extend it to a 5-year of actual work plan with the same monitoring that had been previously submitted. That is one of the things that the abutters had talked about with their experts, is possibly adjusting some of our transect locations or adding transect locations, and we're going to be working with them on that. But so that may be being revised in the future. But I think that at this point, this is the phasing plan that we're working towards.
The Commission will review the presentation before making a final ruling on the project. Families with disabilities will have an easier time dining out in Hyannis thanks to a new accessible dining guide. Executive Director of the Main Street Business Improvement District, Elizabeth Werfbane, explains.
Well, so it's another dimension of what we offer on Main Street. We worked with the Barnstable Disability Commission to, collect, the data. Elizabeth Spilsbury in our office worked with Ray Caddy from the commission to, create this guide which showcases at least 20 different restaurants in the downtown that are year-round that have different facets of, disability access. Of course, over the years, the newer the restaurant, of course, the more it has to offer. But most of our older restaurants have, the ability for disabled people on all levels to come and dine. And so this guide is wonderful, and it shows, exactly, who can be, who it is accessible for. For instance, it talks about like the seating. One restaurant, Sunnyside Restaurant. The seating, tables are wheelchair accessible, seating with arms. Restrooms accessible. It talks about the parking. Where it is located. So that way, when you come, you can come here, for instance, in a wheelchair or with someone with a walker. Or also where's the parking.
Right.
That's really important, in this, not just in the aging population, which, Cape Cod is, but also any population that's transient. You have relatives coming, you have cousins, you have, all sorts of people coming in, and the whole family will go out when you have somebody who's disabled going out to dinner. It's an occasion, and they need to know ahead of time. So this is really a great tool.
The Accessible Dining Guide is available through the Disability Commission. To get a copy of the new guide, you can call 508-862-4914. For Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Mannell.